Assalamu alaikum, welcome to Bidayah Screencast. We are beginning chapter 3, which discusses the alphabet with Tanween. This chapter will cover Tanween Fath, Tanween Kasr, and Tanween Dam. We are almost halfway through the book, and the student can measure his or her progress with the map. This is level 3 out of 8. So inshallah, the student is close to finishing the book. Lesson 6 discusses Tanween Fatha. Tanween al-Fath is the focus, and we want the student to recognize the placement of Tanween al-Fath, which is on top of the letter. This is very important because in the future lessons we don't want the student to confuse it with Tanween Kasr or Tanween Dam. Also, another objective of this lesson, as shown in the instructor's boxes, is that Tanween Fath is very closely connected with the Fatha, and we want the student to visualize it as two Fathas with a different sound given to the letter. For example, Ha Fatha Ha, Ha Fathatain Han. So the student, instead of thinking of them as two separate concepts, the student imagines it as two Fathas and a different sound. Instead of Ha, we have Han. And similarly, Dhal Fatha Dha, Dhal Fathatain Dhan, Qa Qan, and so forth. Also, we represent the Fathatain with two hands in the forward motion, which is again to instill the fact that Fathatain and Tanween are two related concepts in the student's mind. Also, you'll notice that we begin the example with the letter Ha, and the first word contains Ha with Tanween, and the second box has Dhal, as does the second word, and so forth for the third box and the third word. This is so the student doesn't experience an abrupt shift while he or she is practicing the words. The Ha will be familiar when he or she is reading the first word, and the Dhal and Qaf will also be familiar. Typically, the technique for teaching the first line, so the student is not overwhelmed by this new concept, is as the teacher I will begin the first half of the word and just have the student complete the second half. For example, I will say Mara and wait for the student to say Han. I will say I, the student will say then, and so forth. I will say Raha, the student will say Qan. So I recite the first half and wait for the student to repeat the second half. Something to note in this lesson is the introduction of Tanween means there's now a difference between the traditional Arabic script and the Quranic script, which is found in the Uthmani version of the Quran. This difference is in the Tanween Fath. In the Quran, we will see the Tanween Fath on top of the letter, and in classical Arabic, the tradition is to write it on top of the Alif. So we will explain, if necessary, to the student to recognize Tanween within the Quran on top of the letter. For example, on top of the Fa in this case, on top of the Ba in this case, because Bidayah's main focus is for reading the Quran properly, and we want to avoid any confusion with the student, inshallah. As a reminder, in this lesson we will no longer use spelling technique. Letter by letter is unacceptable. We left this behind in lesson 5. If the student still struggles with reading the words letter by letter instead of connecting at least into pairs of letters, we must review chapter 2 with the student. As usual, the Bidayah flashcards, Bidayah workbook, the online website, and the instructor's manual will have extra practice, extra objectives, and more help with instruction, inshallah. Jazakumullah khair. Assalamu alaikum.